Okay, well, welcome again, Lynda McNutt Foster with Cortex Leadership Training and Ron Bonnstetter with TTI Talent Insights. I appreciate all the time you've been giving us out there in Phoenix. And again, Becky Freemal with WFXR in our Virginia at Work series. And we are knee deep, maybe even up to my earlobes at this point, in information about the assessments that TTI gives around the globe. And Ron, if you could just back up for a moment and talk about these assessments. I think people see them and think, oh, another personality test. What's your response?
Yeah. I don't think of them in that way at all. First of all, as a group, an umbrella, I like the term science of self. We really are trying to have people understand self. And in the process of doing that, people are really not able to articulate the qualities they have without assistance. And so these assessments sort of open the floodgate and allow voice to many concepts, such as what are your behaviors? What are your dominant approaches to problem solving? How do you interact with people? What are your soft skills? There needs to be a tool that allows that to come out so that it can be shared with others and so that you can learn about self in a meaningful way and take charge of your own behaviors and motivators.
These assessments, Lynda, of course, you use with companies around, you said about 2,500 you've used
Yeah,
in our area.
we've done about 2,500 assessments. So I just find them fascinating. I'm starting to think like I'm a geek groupie because I just like everybody else would like to have Bon Jovi on, and I'm like, we get to have Ron on.
Ron's
oh my
a rock
gosh,
star.
yeah, he's my rock star because he's studying the brain. So
talk about what you utilize for your work. You've talked about motivators. We've talked about, the DISC assessment, DISC, and I know we've kind of touched upon a little bit driving forces. Talk about what those are and how you use them.
Yeah, so what I love is that TTI is constantly growing, changing, modifying things to make them based on new brain science and contemporary knowledge. Mm-hmm. And so what they've done is sort of break apart and kind of expand the 6 motivators into 12 driving forces. So it used to be you were high or low in theoretical, which is liking to learn. And you can only imagine where Ron and I fall because we're both high theoretical, and it was kind of like you were high or low. Now it can go, they break it into high intellectual or high instinctive. So a high instinctive is actually a low theoretical. It breaks it down into much more separate parts so that actually as a coach, I can find out what your zone of genius is. So I'm using it to be able to go, here's your pace. Here's your focus. This is what your natural state is. And then out of these 12 driving forces, are you driven by a thirst for knowledge? Do you want to serve your community over anything else? And then do you like a very structured place to live in? Do you live in a very structured way that you have a deep belief system? Well, let's try to pick a role for you that just feels natural, where it doesn't actually feel like work, but it feels like you're fulfilling a purpose.
That's perfect. I couldn't say it better.
And is there a right or wrong answer, Ron, to this? I think some people might think, I wish I was this and not that.
No. Actually, there's not a right or wrong on any of this, but it is recognizing who you are and what you value, but at the same time, then never using that for an excuse. Oh, wow. There's so many things coming to mind. In the workplace, I am absolutely convinced Lynda has seen this time and time again, where miscommunication comes because of these underlying beliefs. Let's take a situation here. I came into a business coming out of education. I was a professor. I was surrounded every day with people that had these lovely conversations about what if. And never once did it come up about how do you use it? Because we're all high theoreticals. And then I come into business and I come into the office. I'm so excited about a new finding. And the very first thing that's said is, so what are you going to do with it?
Oh, no.
How are you going to sell it?
How are we going to make some money?
What value does it have?
Right.
Where do you apply it?
Got it.
And I tell you, what it was a high utilitarian trying to talk and deal with a high theoretical, and we are on such different belief systems that it made it so understanding that becomes crucial. When we divided these up and started looking at what the brain was doing, for example, let's take theoretical for a moment. I love learning, so I'm very high on the intellectual side, and the instinctive side for me doesn't exist. So when I think about somebody that doesn't love learning, I have to tell you what word comes to mind. Ignorant.
Hey, now, because I'm instinctive, I do believe.
Okay.
Back the bus up, Ron.
But recognize the biases that these create. All of our driving
Yes.
forces create biases.
Yes.
The fact is, some people have the ability to take just the amount of information they need and move forward in life. And they also learn from their experiences and their past experience to make decisions and make them quickly and make them accurately. That is just as valuable as somebody on the other end that thinks they need to know everything but never does anything because they never know enough.
Bang. You just nailed it. That was a great explanation of those.
Well, but they're both ends are valuable. That was really your question. And so
Right.
there's not a good or bad.
You were talking about avoidance. And how does that fall into all this? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we definitely avoid things, and I think Ron has done a lot of research in this area. And the avoiding is a reaction to, is an anxious reaction. It's an amygdala response to some type of trigger. Right, Ron?
Absolutely. You've described it perfectly. We just need to recognize the role that plays in every one of our decisions. I've used the analogy a number of times to go to a new restaurant and you look at the menu and the very first thing you do is decide what you won't eat. It's a knee-jerk reaction that we all do. We dismiss the part of the menu we won't eat and then we try to figure out what we will eat. It's harder to decide that final decision, but we already know what we won't order. Avoidance is a natural phenomena. And the problem with that is that we are constantly avoiding things such as people's differing opinions, people who look at the world differently than us. And when that is triggered, another word that came up from Lynda a few minutes ago is crucial. Trust goes away. And as soon as trust goes away, a whole different kind of conversation starts taking place. So the role of avoidance in our communication, in our interactions, is so crucial that we understand what's going on with that.
I just want to mention that this is why I've really sort of leaned into a term of emotional discipline. Because it does take emotional discipline to lean into the opposite point of view, to keep that prefrontal cortex space of curiosity operating.
Not lean in confrontational. Lean in curiosity.
Lean in with your curiosity to go, wow, you think completely different. I had the opportunity to take some people that were as different, let's say politically, as you could imagine in a class. I teach leadership. How can we not be talking about people running for the highest leadership in the world right now? So I actually allowed that conversation to go on, but I facilitated it in a way that said, you've spent 4 months with these people, so you know and care about them. Okay. Right. And so let's talk at the highest level about how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what the information you're getting in, and let's be honest and let's trust each other with the vulnerability that neither one of us are totally sure that we're 100% right, as much as
have a conversation.
We've got to get this right.
One of the tools we've not mentioned here is EQ. Our emotional quotient is an important player in this, because when this trigger occurs, you still make a conscious decision as to what behavior you're going to exhibit. What you've described is the right behavior in that scenario, to be curious and to engage. Let me tell you what the opposite is. I was hearing a conversation the other night between two opposing views on politics. One stated their position and the other one responded with the following: "You moron." Okay.
And that was it.
Now,
constructive.
Do you think that conversation's going anywhere?
No.
No. We just shut up we've shut up the conversation. We're done.
Well, yeah, and I think that's why these sort of conversational intelligence tools, like these rules of engagement, doing rounds, this idea to treat others the way they want to be treated, the idea to quickly be able to go, we probably have some of the same values. And if we talked about those, like starting from a space of
commonality.
There's a common thread amongst everyone. Find it.
Yeah, we all love our country. we all want to serve our organizations. We all want to keep our kids safe. Like there's some really basic things going on. And if you could start the conversations in that space, then trust starts being built, right?
You know, I was jotting down some notes, Ron, as you were just talking, because I do take leadership classes with Lynda. And I think we've talked about amygdala. We've talked about the prefrontal cortex, and we've talked about gamma rays and then you have done a marvelous job of explaining exactly why these things matter to us. Give me a takeaway and tell me if I'm correct on this, which is to simplify everything we've talked about in the last 30 minutes. When you go into a conversational, you need to be intentional and you need to be deliberate. You need to know before you go in and tell that supporter as a driver how excited you are. Wait a minute. Let's be intentional about my thoughts. Let's be deliberate about what I'm going to do. A, am I on the right track? And B, if you could give like a simple takeaway for people maybe who haven't taken, which is unbelievable, they're out there, people who have not taken your assessment, how to move forward with the information we've armed them with as simply as possible so they can remember it, because I don't know if they'll be able to remember every single thing.
Well, listening to you, I think the first step is to understand self and then recognize that explanation is never an excuse for your behavior. And so once you understand self, you need to then become totally reflective in every scenario and try to figure out where others are coming from. And it involves listening. And so far more listening than talking will take you light years into this conversation. And do think about the fact that it's got to be a we conversation. It cannot be a me, you. You cannot create fear or create a threat and expect anything meaningful to come out of it.
Perfect. I think that's a great way to end this. I think that is a great takeaway.
I do. I mean, just listen with curiosity. I don't know what you're going to say, and I don't know what you're thinking.
But that's why you're here to listen.
Yeah, and you just listen with that openness of the fact that you're ready to learn something new.
Perfect.
Yep.
Ron, thank you for all of your insight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. You guys have been an amazing company to partner with to help our clients, and I just appreciate you and all the dedication that you've had for so many years. And definitely our deepest condolences over your brother, Bob. He was an amazing human being on this planet that helped so many people. So thank you for carrying on and helping us so much.
And thank you to everyone out there listening to us. And I hope that we gave you a few things to think about as you move forward at the workplace and in life. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.